Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. Today, we get to feature one of my favorite occupations because I have quite literally crawled in and walked out of an office or two of this particular occupation. And we have an expert. I believe he was named because he's in the Northwest, but one of the Northwest best chiropractors in the area. And his name is Jerry Dreessen. And that's right, isn't it, Jerry? It's Dreessen, right?
Yes. Wait a minute.
I just
check the back of my shirt. Yep, that's me, Jerry Dreessen.
But you do so much more, and that's how we got acquainted. Was that you also do web development and online things, and we can talk about that as well. But
yeah, the rabbit holes go deep.
They do, and you're a magician at the same time.
That's right.
So I don't know. Now, being a chiropractor, you do magic work. You know that.
And it also helps break the ice with the kids when I, pull a spine out from behind their ear.
Oh, that's pretty good right there. But you've been, how long have you been a chiropractor?
36 years.
Oh, come on. When did you start? When you were 10? You don't look that old.
I had the Doogie Howser syndrome when I first started. Everybody's like, you're 18. And it's like, no, I'm 26. And they're like, well, it was 8 years of school. So when I graduated from high school, I still had 8 more years of college. And then when I got out of that, I was lucky enough to get started with my dad in his practice, and I learned a lot from him. And then I jumped the nest after being there 8 years, and then I've been on my own ever since then.
Well, that's the one thing that I want everybody to understand and be clear. Jerry, it's really sad. I have family members who still think chiropractor is a way out there thing. And I just want to make sure everybody's aware. You go through 8 years of school to become a chiropractor.
Same books as the MD schools teach out of. So, yeah.
So it's not a fly by night weekend course that you become a chiropractor. You are you know what I mean, though.
Well, there is that Cracker Jack box, where you lift it out and you write your name on it and you stick that on the wall. So. Yeah.
Yeah, but that does. So I guess make sure that they're
here's what happened. Way back in the day, chiropractors were making a huge advance. They were healing a lot of people. They actually lined the inside of their walls with crutches and wheelchairs from getting people that couldn't walk to walk. And there is a science behind it. There really is. And it's actually been verified. And we can now see all of this stuff because the technology is now around to show that what we do works and how well it works using color MRI and great things like that. But what happened was the MDs went, okay, chiropractors, we want you under our wing. We want you to, be with us. Come on and, play with us. And we're like, no. We're staying down our lane. We're going to create our own lane. We're going to stay down here. We're not going to venture into pill punctures, potions, and powders. We're going with the innate ability to be healthy. And there was a group that said, no, we'll do it. And then that's where the osteopaths came into, and and so they're a mixture of manipulation and medicine. Chiropractors, we do what's called an adjustment on subluxations, which is a totally different realm. If you, again, want to do a deep dive on that. And then back in, it was when I was still in college, but I think it was back in, it was after I was out. I think it was 94. There was a antitrust suit against the AMA. Chiropractors filed it and won, proving that the AMA was purposefully trying to discredit chiropractic just because of political reasons. and they lost. And there's a Reader's Digest. Those of you that have those piled up, either that you have to walk around in your house every day, or in some closet, they had to publish in Reader's Digest a redaction, kind of like, you need to own up for what you did. And that's what they did. And it was published saying that, yes, the only reason we were discrediting chiropractors because we didn't like them. But unfortunately, there was a huge section of doctors that got taught chiropractors were quacks. And then they took that into their practice. And now we're at the point where all of those doctors are aging out and the new doctors are coming in, and we're working side by side with medical doctors. I'm trauma qualified, I'm hospital qualified, just to roll up my sleeves next to an MD and be able to talk about what can we do together to get this patient better. And that's really where health needs to be, is where you've got this building and every health profession is in there for the good of the patient. But unfortunately, you have the clash of egos, and that's where the problem really is.
I have a quick story to tell you that goes back to the 80s. I hurt my back playing basketball, and it was a low back, L4, L5, and it's a family thing. We have got a weakness that is hereditary.
Genetic predisposition.
That's what I'd call it. If I'd gone to school for 8 years, that's what I'd call it. And so I could barely walk. And so we went to the emergency room, and they put me on a gurney, and I was in the examination room, and the doctor comes in and he goes, "Low back, huh?" I said, "Yeah, it hurts here and hurts here. I can barely walk." And he literally walked around the table 3 times, looked at me and said, "Yep, you got a back problem. I'm gonna prescribe you some muscle relaxers and some pain meds, and go home and go to bed."
Oh, you didn't get the 6 weeks of physical therapy?
They didn't have it. This is early before that.
That's right. That was later on. Okay.
Yeah, and he said, "Yep, and you're going to be this way until down the road. I'd recommend you get surgery, and then maybe that'll fix it."
And that is their box. That's the box they live in, and that's the world that they live in. And how did you get out of that? Was it just time, and then you kept re-injuring it?
No, the coolest part of this was I said, "This is stupid." And if you can't, so we left the hospital, and there was a Cronlin Chiropractic was on the way from the emergency room to our house. And I said, "Well, stop in here." And so we stopped in there, and Dr. Cronlin was open at the time. And I crawled in literally, and with my wife's help. And I said, I really need help. I am a restaurant manager, and I'm on my feet all day. That's all I know how to do. And if I hurt like this, I can't do that. And so now I'm homeless. And he said, "Well, let's see what we can do." So he went, took a couple x-rays, and he came in and said, "I think I can help you." And so he adjusted me on the table, and I got up and I walked out, and the pain was not gone, but it was far, far less. Now, within 2 weeks, the pain was completely gone. Until the next time I heard
profession to be in. I mean, I get to do that for 36
That's so
years.
cool.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's great and we're usually the last one. We're the last resort. They've been everywhere else. They've tried everything else. So they finally go, "Okay, my friend told me to do this a long time ago, and I thought you guys were quacks, and I still think you are, but I need you to fix me, doc, because I'm going to Reno tomorrow, and I got to be able to walk." It's that's the classic phrase. But yeah, it's just it's mechanical and nerves. If you've got a vertebra out of alignment, it's going to pinch the joint. The joint's going to swell up. It's going to lay on top of the nerve. The nerve is not going to function. It's either going to be pain or weakness. If we can trace that out, and again, I think medicine should always be this way, is to find the true cause of the problem versus trying to eliminate symptoms. I mean, we can eliminate symptoms easily, the pain puncture or the pill puncture potion and powder, rather than the innate ability to be healthy. And if you are just trying to make somebody feel good, there's tons of ways to do that. But if you really want to help them out, just like with you, here's what's causing your problem, fix that, and then the body will heal itself. And that's the way health should be.
Well, and as he explained it to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm remembering this incorrectly, but he said your nerve is pinched, which is causing your back to seize up because the muscles are contracting. It's your body's way of creating a cast so that you don't move it so much.
Yep.
And so your muscles are seizing up, which isn't allowing you to move, and you can't get any better from that until you get the muscles to relax, and then the nerves get put back in place, and then the vertebrae gets realigned so that it's not pinching the nerve anymore, and then the back will relax. Am I close?
You are close. We didn't spend an hour talking about the meningeal nerve, but you're yeah, there's a ton of stuff going on inside the facet joint, which is where you probably had it pinched, is a membrane called the plica or plica, and that right there, when you stimulate that, goes up the spinal cord. There's about 5 high brain centers that it ping pongs around and comes back down, and then it tells the joint and the muscle to begin to relax. And like I said, it's now been shown on color MRI, which is just, we've always said, pinched nerve or a herniated disc. But in a sense, that is what's going on. There's pressure on the joint, kind of biting down on your cheek. It's if you push your cheek in and you bite down on it, it's going to hurt until you pull the cheek out of your teeth. And in your back joints, when that happens, that's exactly what's going on. You just have to decompress it. You've heard of decompression therapy. That's basically what chiropractors do. And I guess I'll throw this one in too. The Greek word for hand is chiro, and that's where chiropractic comes from, is that we're using our hands.
Oh, that's it. That's cool. And by the way, using your hands works really well for a magician, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Because now there are people that will call a chiropractor a back cracker, and which is not necessarily how the chiropractor works, depending upon each situation. They've got a device that they can use. They've also got a table that's a special table that works in conjunction with all of that.
A pneumatic drop table. Yep.
Yeah, and then the drop table actually makes more noise than your back ever would. So.
Unless you're the screamer.
Well, but I'll tell you, I would go to him because I was young. I was in my early 30s, and my father had back problems. My grandmother had back problems. My sister had just had back surgery.
Yeah.
And in those days, fortunately, they don't do it as much now, but they opened her up from like stem to stern and messed with her back. And it's never been the same.
No.
She would have been much better off working with chiropractic, massage, and doing those things rather than doing that.
The people who have had surgery are the first ones to tell you not to get surgery, not because it didn't fix the problem, but the secondary things that happened as a result of it. Where you were cut, the stitches, it goes deep. And as soon as, and the doctors will tell you this too, as soon as they cut you open, they reflect your skin, those cells are already denurturing because of the atmosphere being exposed to the air. And then what they used to do in the back surgeries is they would, they go all the way down and there's fat pads. They would pull out the fat pads, go down to the nerve and, do their great work. They would repack it with that fat, but it had no vascularization. So now that fat would necrose around the nerve so that 5, 6, 7 years later, the problem would be worse because of the complications of a successful surgery, which is really sad.
And what happened in my sister's case was this was low back surgery, which affected the entire spine. And then eventually she had to have neck surgery on her spine because it had misaligned from the bottom going up. She ended up having 3 neck surgeries to try and fix it. And it still is not right. And now she's pretty much disabled.
That is sad.
It really is. But I tried. Goodness knows I tried. Go to a chiropractor. No, they're just a backcracker. They don't know.
They don't know what they're talking about.
But I know chiropractors. Now, tell me if you knew that. Are you familiar with the NUCA method?
Uh-huh.
Now that I knew a chiropractor who did that, and that's just a small piece in your neck, isn't it?
NUCA is, yeah. Well, chiropractic, when it first started, was only the first two bones in the neck, the atlas and the axis. That's all chiropractic was. And your brainstem goes down about 3 fingers down the back of your head. So if you're only adjusting the first two vertebrae, you're still adjusting. And that's why they call it the atlas, is the world's, how Atlas holds the world.
Exactly.
The atlas holds the world to the brain, but also the brain stem. And that's where the right side of your brain turns into the left side signal. Is through that whole network there. So yeah, those first two vertebrae have a huge influence on the rest of the body.
Because you're obviously from your brain stem is where all your nerves go to all the parts of your body and back and forth.
If we're an optical fiber system, the brain is where all of the wires, all of the optical fibers go into, but it has to go through that little hole in the back of the neck. And if the vertebrae are out of alignment through like a car accident, whiplash, T-bone, sports injury, soccer player heading the ball, hockey player getting an elbow, it'll misalign things. It doesn't reset itself. Then that was I'll have a patient coming in. They've had headaches for years. Have you ever been in an accident? They're in their 40s. Yeah, but that was when I was in high school. That has nothing to do with this. Well, that has everything to do with this. What kind of an accident was it? Well, it was kind of weird. I got thrown out of the car after it rolled. It's like, what the heck? I used to hear these stories from other chiropractors. Now I'm witnessing people telling me these stories. Like, did you think your neck got put back where it was supposed to be? But that's, one of the things we hinted about is we are not educated. When we're born, we come out with an umbilical cord, but it's not attached to a book on here's how to raise yourself properly. And we're not getting that education. And that needs to be done from as early as kindergarten on how to be your own doctor, literally, and not rely on somebody else to tell you what to do, which is half the problem we have right now.
And I just want to flag this for everybody. If you grew up like I did and played sports, I was a catcher and played Little League and Babe Ruth and high school ball. And I was a wrestler and also a football player. And as a football player, football is not a contact sport. It's a collision sport. and you are always running into somebody. And so is it possible that if you are in your 30s and 40s that you have got residual issues that were created when you ran into that running back trying to tackle him and he knocked you flat on your butt? Is it possible that you can have residual effect from that and that has affected your whole life?
Well, the older you are when you played football, the worse gear you had. You had what we call the squirrel cage helmet, where it's just a bunch of, what was it, felt or some sort of cloth that was was what your helmet set on. And we didn't have the collars, the shoulder pads, all that stuff was just in the process of being figured out as we were, going through that. But yes, and the picture that I usually paint is, if you have a 20-year-old car, you bought it, was brand new. Now it's 20. What's wrong with it? Are things starting to fail? You got a light that's turning on. You got, did you oil it every 2,000 miles? Did you put a new belt on it? Did you get it tuned up? That's the same thing as your body. That little squeak that you had when you first bought it now needs to be replaced because it was never taken care of. And our internal system is exactly the same. If you had a problem that was just a minor thing, like in football, you got, some sort of a pinch. If it never got decompressed and realigned and put back what we're supposed to be, over time, it's going to start causing a problem.
And that's why in the NFL, all the players have access to massage therapists and chiropractic.
You just don't hear about it because it's kind of weird. It's like, well, they don't really talk about they don't want people to know that they're getting care, because that puts a target on the area that gets injured for the other players to go after.
Right. Right. But it is a necessary, it's necessary to heal those things, because if you don't, they're just going to
Yeah.
exacerbate, and it's just going to get
Yeah.
worse
Like I
and
said, if there was a place for all healing arts to work on somebody, it would be great, but you're just bouncing around too many egos. And that's, you just have to have an egoless practice with a bunch of other great doctors. I think that would be phenomenal to do something like that.
that really would be. But the problem is that doctors make money from pharmaceutical companies, and the pharmaceutical companies don't like you very much because you don't recommend, you don't even um, prescribe those things, and so they don't even come to your office to give you free samples because you can't subscribe them anyway.
Well, I don't know if you've ever heard of Celebrex or Vioxx, but they're called COX-2 inhibitors. And when your body makes pain, there's two things that happen in the enzyme process, and there's an LOX and a COX, which are the names of the enzymes. And when they are created, that's what creates pain and inflammation. And so if you were to eliminate the process of that being made, then you can stop pain and inflammation. And that's what Celebrex and Vioxx are, is they're COX-2 inhibitors. Well, people don't realize it, but fish oil does that naturally. Fish oil will go in, it'll stop that from happening, but you have to take it in a high enough dosage. So, 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams a day. So the pharmaceutical people, they know that. So they tried to do that, but they could only get half of it right. So it was only stopping the COX system from stopping, but the LOX kept going. And that's what stroked people out. So now they have a product that's killing people. So they took it off the market, paid the lawsuits, and then put it back on the market. And it's under a black box warning saying this might kill you. And I have patients taking it. And I said, when they gave that to you, did they tell you that it kills people? And their mouth drops. They go, no. And I said, why did they give it to you? He said, well, I'm having pain. And they said, try this. It might work. And it's like, what other profession is there? It's like, try this. It might work. But my point of that is we use things that work naturally. And I would say, I don't know, percentage wise, I'd throw a number out there. At least half of the pharmaceutical stuff that's out there is an attempt to create what we can do naturally, but they're just trying to create it synthetically so that they can own a patent and make money.
And make money they do. And in some cases, they make a tremendous amount of money. And it's like nowadays when you listen to one of their commercials, and they listen at the end of the commercial,
somebody talking really fast about how you could die 5 different ways.
Exactly. And so if my advice to anybody who's listening, I know from personal experience, I started chiropractic in the 80s. And I've used them whenever I've had the need, forever. And so go to a chiropractor, even if you're feeling okay, because they can adjust you. And you don't see, if you don't know, you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know how good you could feel versus how you are feeling, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, we talk in our circles, but the first sign of a heart attack for most people is death.
That's exactly right.
There is nothing that says that it's going to happen. And same thing with the body. You can have, for example, you can have a acid reflux. Why do you have an acid reflux? It's not because your stomach wants to start shooting stuff out. You've got a little valve on the top, a sphincter called a cardiac sphincter, and it's supposed to shut anytime you eat food. Well, it's got a nerve that tells it to shut, and that nerve comes from your upper back, comes out of the spinal cord and exits between your shoulders and goes to the stomach. Well, if you've got a problem, again, if it was a car accident, your seatbelt held you and your head turned twist real fast and it twisted that area in your mid back, and that nerve it's like a dimmer switch. It doesn't have to be all the way off. It can just be off a little bit. Then that stomach valve is not going to close properly. You're going to get acid reflux. But what do? You take Tums, and what does Tums do? It neutralizes the acid. So now your digestive system can't digest properly because it needs acid to kill all the bad guys. So now your digestive system doesn't work. You start getting sick because your first line of defense is being shut down. All of these things can happen. And it's, people are like, wow, chiropractic cured me of a whole bunch of things. Like, how does that happen? Well, all I did was adjust the vertebra between the neck and shoulder area. It released the pressure, the nerve worked, the valve started closing, and the body started to heal itself. So when you look at it that way, it's pretty simple. But to figure that out, that's the science behind chiropractic.
And that's the 8 years of education.
Yeah.
Well, now I've got my former wife, who shall remain nameless for this particular one. She had a problem that is apparently, I had no idea, but apparently it's really is rampant among women who've had children. And I don't know. I had a chiropractor who swore to me that he could help with this particular problem, but I don't know. And so, it seems to me that if it's a reflux problem that you can fix there, there are. Every time my ex-wife used to sneeze, she would have a little, she would pee her pants a little bit. And I didn't know whether or not that has the same kind of principle, or is that because you delivered a couple of bowling balls out of there and it's just has hurt it and is never going to be the same.
Right. So now, I mean, that's the thing, is what's the true cause? It could be that there was sacral pressure, which allowed the pelvic floor to relax and it never tightened back up again because that never got taken care of. The bladder incontinence issue could be because, like you said, there was a stretching involved. We are elastic, but just like a rope, once you stretch a rope, it never goes tight again. Right. And it all depends on, the positioning of the baby. I don't know if you knew this, but chiropractors, also we do minor surgery, we do proctology, gynecology, we deliver babies, we do physical therapy. That's all part of our degree that we do. State of Washington prohibits chiropractors from performing those things. There are only 2 states in the United States that limit chiropractors from what they can do. And so we learn all about that. So that's why it's easy for us to treat these things, because we learned it, got tested on it. And then as far as having things at our disposal, physical therapy, Kegel exercises, there's, a whole bunch of different types of pelvic floor things. It just depends on what's going on in the system. And so there are times where, chiropractic adjustments to the L5 sacral area does take the signal that's supposed to go to the system to allow tension to return, and allows that to happen. There are other ones where it doesn't matter what the signal does. The end of the line where that tissue is just not going to function again because it got overwhelmed, and it just, because of its plasticity, it's not able to return back to normal.
But if you have that problem and you may be able to get relief, I mean, that would be,
if you've never tried it, why not? Right.
Well, exactly. But then a whole nother business, whole nother revenue stream for somebody goes out of business, and that's the depends of the world and this anyway. So, but by the way, we're talking with Jerry Dreessen. He is a chiropractor. He is a magician. Let's see, he's a chiropractor. Of note, he's got a great practice in a little north of Seattle. He is a web development guy, and he's got a company around that. He is a magician, and he is part of the magicians. I don't want to call it a union, but
International Brotherhood of Magicians, the IBM.
And you're part of them, and you do magic, and you do website stuff, and you're doing website stuff for me, and my associate Holly and desperately needs the care of a chiropractor on an ongoing basis, because it just is, and physical therapy can be very expensive and isn't necessarily as beneficial if the therapist that you're working with isn't really attuned with what's going on with your body. Am I incorrect in that, sir?
I tell people that massage therapy, physical therapy and chiropractic is like a 3-layered cake. And the top layer is massage, where they're going in on the skin and the muscles. Physical therapy goes a little bit more deep into the muscles and tendons. Chiropractors go tendons and joints. And if you aren't getting all 3 of those worked on for your problem, you're only getting half of the, or a third of the solution to your problem. And so chiropractors and physical therapists and massage therapists make a great power team to work on the person that if they've got a problem.
And then, like the pro athletes, they also have a nutritionist that helps you eat better, and a spiritual coach, and all of that. So
Yep.
put those things all together, and that would be a great package to live your life in full and as healthy as possible.
A tribe of healthcare professionals.
I wonder if has anybody ever thought about putting that together as a package for folks to have, the chiropractor, the massage, the physical therapy, the nutrition, the spiritual, the life coach, and put them all together in a package that somebody could buy. I think somebody would buy that.
Kevin, what are you doing Saturday?
Doesn't that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It makes total sense. And there are people that do that, but they go out and they handpick their group. So yeah, I have patients that are that way. They've got, a dozen people that they work with to help them in their pursuit of wellness.
Which at the end of the day, that's all we got. Is you lose your health and you can't walk very well, and you fall down a lot, and then it's not good.
If you can't surfboard when you're 90, why stick around?
That's right. Or jump out of an airplane.
Yeah, with a parachute.
Yeah. Okay. So you're a magician. How long have you been doing
that? Since I was 8.
You're an early bloomer.
I had it. Well, okay. Well, my dad was born and raised on a farm in Minnesota. He fell out of a barn and broke his back. He was in a body cast his whole year in high school and was told he'd never walk again without pain. Went to a chiropractor, got his back adjusted, immediately got out of pain, and that's how he became a chiropractor. So I grew up with chiropractic. We went to the farm back in Minnesota to visit everybody, and my uncle Leroy was there. And he did this card trick, and it's like, what the heck? How did And so I was that kid that constantly bugged my uncle just over and over. Show me the trick. Show me the trick. Show me the trick. Show me the trick. So he showed me, and it was like I got to see behind the Wizard of Oz's red curtain, and it was like, holy cow, is this what you did? And with that, I kind of went into a deep dive as much as I could in the Snohomish library system, all of the books that were there on magic, until for Christmas, I got this really cool magic kit that my folks got me. And inside of there were about 8 or 9 other amazing secrets. It's like, oh man, I can't believe it. So yeah, I exposed a lot of that magic, performing without practicing as a little kid. And then I got good at it. And then I started doing stuff. What was cool is in college, there was a buddy of mine that he would ask me if I was loaded. And for me, loaded was I packed with stuff that I could do magic with. And so I would say yes. And so he'd go over to a table of people that were just kind of sitting and talking and drinking. He would introduce me, and I'd go over there and I'd perform 10, 15 minutes of, close-up magic, and had a lot of fun with that. And then when I started my practice, I met up with another guy that he was on the other side of the spectrum, where he'd been doing it, 30, 40 years. And there really wasn't a place for magicians to go other than Mickey Hades, which is downtown Seattle, not there anymore. But that's where all of the big name magicians would go. And so we decided, why not make a group here? So we co-founded the Lynnwood Magic Ring. And then it has since turned into the Northwest Ring of Fire, but it really grew, and it was a lot of fun. We've done a lot of stage shows. I would go. We did one for burn victims. We did some charity work, and it just became fun. And to me, I enjoy magic because it's a way of entertaining people. I also, I'm on stage. I do musicals and plays and things like that. And I do a lot of keynote speaking on health and wellness, and to me, it's just kind of helped me get out there and do some more things. I had a show I would do with another magician. That was so fun. I would show up on stage and I'd start doing magic, and nobody knew this, but he would be in the audience and he would heckle me. And it's like, I know how to do that. Boring, stuff like that. And I said, well, do you think you could do better? He goes, yeah, as a matter of fact, I can. And, well, come on up. And so like the audience was like totally nervous about what's going on. And then the music would cue in, and we actually did dueling magicians with dueling banjos playing. And so we would go back and forth, and anything that he did, I would do bigger. Like he would like produce a wand with a silk, and I would reach in my hat and pull out a 10-foot wand. It's just, back and forth like that. And that was a lot of fun.
So what's your favorite trick of all time that you did?
Okay, my favorite one is I will take somebody's dollar bill and tear it up, put it in my pocket, write them an IOU for it, start to walk away. And they're standing. It could be a $10 bill, it could be $100 bill. And then I turn and I go, okay, wait, I forgot the other part of this. I said, whenever you want to cash this in, and I would wad up the IOU in my hand, and I would light it on fire, and out of the flames would be their bill. And that's that's one of my favorite ones to do.
That now, my associate Holly, who you've met and know, she went to a magic show, and she actually got called up on stage. And I'm just curious to know if you've ever heard of this trick, or if it's basically what it was she went up on stage in a bag was a 32-ounce bottle of pop, and it was sealed and stuff and in the bag. And then in the audience there were 30 or 40 cans of pop that had been distributed to the audience, and they were told to shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, shake it up. And so they did, and then they opened the can. Now this is third hand, so I may be getting this screwed up, but they opened the can in the audience, and there was no fizz to it, but all the fizz was in the bottle that was in the bag that Holly was holding. Have you ever seen that before?
And so the bag would expand with all of everybody's fizzes from their cans?
Yes.
I have not seen that trick, but I have a pretty good idea of what it was done. I love watching Fool Me with Penn and Teller, because I watch the magicians do theirs. Like, okay, you're taking like 5 or 6 different things and recombining it for the illusion. And it's, that's the really cool part, is when you are mixing and matching other theories and other, devices and stuff like that to come out with a different process. In fact, I've done that too. I have an invention that I started selling. It's a magic illusion, and I sold it in the linking ring way back in '84, I think. And it's sold out, and it's like but that was again before the internet, and my supplier could not supply me with what I needed anymore, and so I just had to set it aside. But it's fun. You get to invent stuff, and people enjoy that. But I really like that illusion. That is really cool. I would love to see that in person.
Yeah, well, talk to Holly. I may have gotten it screwed up somehow because I got it third hand from them. But I interviewed him, and he said, "Well, that's kind of sort of close." But But I imagine doing everything that you do now. When you were a kid, did you just like to get on stage and just like to entertain people? Because were you born to do this, all the things that you do?
I must have been, because every year there was a school play and I was in it. Um, and I would fight really hard to get the lead. And I think out of all of the years that I was there, I had the lead probably 60% of all of the shows. So yeah. And then I actually, when I was in high school, I wasn't in drama. I was in music. I did we did music and jazz choir and stuff like that. And I was part of Sound Station here at Edmonds Community College. And but it wasn't until my senior year in high school, one of my friends had said, "Hey, they're auditioning for Oklahoma. It's a musical." I go, "What's a musical?" He goes, "Well, you sing instead of talk." And it's like, "What? You talk, sing? I don't get it." And what the heck is what's a musical? And give me Van Halen. It's just so. I had I had a knee problem from football injury in junior high, where somebody's helmet went to the right and my knee followed it, and popped it really bad. So I was in track, but I was doing shot put back. I was doing shot put and discus and track because I couldn't do any running. So I tried out for it, and I got, those of you that know Oklahoma, I was Will Parker, and that was a blast. I had never known how much fun, doing a large show like that was. I was what in elementary school, our plays were like a half hour. It wasn't that big a deal, but when you're doing like a full on, singing, and I was Charlie Brown in 5th grade. But here was the other thing. My voice changed when I was in 6th grade. I was a bass when I was in 6th grade. And in junior high, the 7th grade choir was soprano alto. The boys were soprano alto too. So they moved me into the 9th grade choir as a 7th grader so that I could sing bass. And I made a lot of really great friends. I was walking around as a 7th grader, even in high school. Like, I knew all the seniors when I was, just starting out. So that was fun. So yeah, long answer to the word yes. I enjoy being on stage.
What was your favorite play that you did?
I think the funnest one was doing Into the Woods with Kids Up Forest Theater. And they just had their 100-year anniversary of doing shows out in the woods. And that's just outside of Bremerton. And my my wife and my daughter and my son and my daughter-in-law were in it with me.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun.
And that's a hoot. You get to be out there with family.
Oh yeah, that's a great time. I was able to do, there's a whole story behind it that I use to talk about the direction in your life and how it changes and stuff. But I joined a theater extempore at Green River Community College.
Oh, nice.
And got to it was interesting because I joined and by the way, since we're talking about acting, I say this every time and I mean it sincerely. If you are a parent, you need to put your kids into improvisational acting. And I'm going to tell you why right now. It's because you learn to think on your feet. You get a lot more confident in who you are. And you are then able to translate those skills later on in life to do a myriad of things: sales, public speaking, working, just to give you the self-confidence. So
yeah, no, I love doing improv too. I didn't think we were going to turn that page, but yeah, I a couple of improv groups around the area. I went through their all the way up through their 300 series on doing improv. And my daughter, who just graduated a couple of years ago, she has theater major from Bellingham and was doing improv up there, and she is so funny. But yeah, it
is the coolest thing. So anyway, I was in the improvisational class, and what they do, this was the beginning one. So they teach you, go find an animal that you're going to duplicate its movements exactly so that people can guess what it is that you are doing as that animal. I chose a turtle. And so the next step was, now after you, and they picked, I did him, and they said, oh, that's a turtle. And they said, so the next one is you make a caricature of it, and you make it mostly turtle, but a little bit of human traits, just a little bit.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And so we did that. And then I want you, then they said, okay, now I want you to be full on turtle man or animal man, and have a conversation and do a scene with another animal person. So I got to do my scene with a grizzly bear, and and I was a turtle, and 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 so we were facing each other, and he said, okay, the premise is the grizzly bear is going to fire the turtle. He's an employee, and he's going to fire him. So the grizzly bear was blustering and all this big time, you're fired, and the turtle, who I was timid and shy, and was trying to get back in his shell because he was scared and stuff. And the guy said, so what do you have to say for yourself? And he said, sir, you can't fire me. I've got 3 eggs and a wife at home. And so he started going, and and then it dawned on him what I'd said. and everybody just busted up. But those are the fun experience. And then, so what happened was, the school play was called Dark at the Top of the Stairs, and in one of the characters, his name is Punky Gibbons, and Punky doesn't have any lines. It's all physical acting, and he's a very shy guy, and so he has an impact on the show, but he didn't have any lines. And the guy that was cast to do that said, this thing sucks, it doesn't have any lines, why would I want to do that?
No.
and so because of my turtle man, they put me in as Punky Gibbons, and then I did Lazar Wolf and in in Fiddler on the Roof, and then was Petruchio in Taming of the Shrew, and then I had to go get a job.
I was the constable in Fiddler. In fact, I was the constable twice.
Oh, you were the bad guy.
Well, here's what's really weird. So now, we're doing it Kitsap Forest Theater. So here's a bunch of us walking around in Nazi outfits and a bunch of nuns, and we're walking around the woods, and it's like this. If somebody looks at this in the wrong light, it's going to go weird.
Oh, but I tell you,
getting a Nazi convention out in the woods
with a bunch of nuns. Yeah. Oh boy. But it's, acting is it's a great pastime. It's a great way for kids to explore all about who they are. So improvisational acting leads to the stage, leads to other things, and it can be very positive for a young person.
It is. And it's interesting. I was talking with a woman about how young people, they think that what they have to say isn't important, or they can't connect with, if there's a group of 5 talking and they don't have a similar situation to connect, kind of like you and I were talking about similar things, they can't relate. And then all we're looking for is just a group that we can talk to, and then become ourselves again, get to our level where, we're, in a way, we're kind of sharing our own vulnerabilities with each other, or you don't have that fear of failure when you're with a group of peers, and you can just be yourself. And she was talking about how it wasn't until people were talking about, what was her, it had something to do with like missing the bus or something like that. And then she got to talk about how growing up, she would always miss the bus. And now she had something to link herself into that group. And then she became herself. But before that, you could just see her just kind of pulled away from the conversation. And, improv is one of those great skills where you get to stand out there and start with not knowing what you're going to do. And you get over that. You're no longer frozen, because it's like, okay, you can even talk about being frozen. Like, okay, I'm standing up here, I don't know what to talk about. There you go. Now you're doing it. You're improvising.
I have to tell you this one more, because it can be just as simple as this. In high school, I did take drama, and we were doing improvisation. And the teacher put a chair in the middle of the floor, and so somebody was going to sit in the chair, and it turned out to be my 285-pound friend, my best friend in high school. He's passed now, so I can tell this story. And so he was sitting in the chair, and a couple people did a couple scenes. Well, I walked up, knocked on an imaginary door while he's sitting in the chair, and said, "Don, hurry up, I gotta go." That was his line that he had to then follow up with the kind of the whole thing revolved around him sitting on the toilet. So it can be an imaginary thing. I just totally, and that's why we're talking about it, Jerry, because it can be a moment in your kid's life that they're not going to have any other way. And if they can, they can get applause. They can really feel like they're special.
Well, I mean, I really think one of the keys in life is, if you can remove self-imposed limitations, I think that's one of the keys. And then also, one of the other things I believe in too is that the ground, if you have a seed, if you put the seed in the ground, it's going to grow. And that's kind of how life is too, is that it will grow anything you plant into it. It doesn't know right from wrong. It doesn't know good from bad. Just like the earth, you could be planting, arsenic, or you could be planting nothing but poison. It's still going to, have a flower and produce poison. It doesn't know. It's neutral. It just grows things. And I think that's, how life is too. If you're going to feed it the seeds to grow bad things, then you're going to harvest bad things. If you're putting in seeds to grow good things, then good things are going to come from it. It knows nothing. It's neutral. It's what you put into it, and it's what you focus on. And we become what we think about. And that's the other part of it. And we just have to get in there. And you're talking about that tribe of people. We have to get in there and change that tune so that we're not worried about, and as a doctor, the cortisol levels. You don't want to be boiling around in cortisol. You want to be, floating around in dopamine. And how you do that is you on purpose plant the right things and get the right harvest.
That's exactly right. You're going to have to come back, and we got to do more of this, because we're just tapping into a subject that I would really like to go deep into, and that is how to live your life in a positive way and be able to achieve the things in life that you would like to, and not say, because of the stories that have been fed to you over time, I can't, I won't, no, it's not going to work.
And that's, half of the patients that I see, that's the things they have to overcome, is that loop. They got to break that loop with their thinking, and they feel like they're trapped, and I can't get them better because they're doing all of the negative things that go against health. They're not feeding themselves properly. They're not drinking enough water. That's part of it right there. Half your body weight in ounces is what the Russians talked about, which makes sense as far as, cramping up at night. It's just simple things like that. In the wintertime, we drink less water. And, how do we make ourselves drink, 100 ounces of water every day? It's tough to do. But once you start doing it, it's easy. And, not knowing, like I said, we don't have that book that tells us how to be better. And in fact, that is a book that I wrote. It's on Amazon. It's, Help Me Eliminate My Pain, Doc. And I guess I can do a shameless plug. But
please do.
You can find it on Amazon. You just type in my last name, Dreessen, Dreessen, and you'll see that book. And it's, I think, 99 cents for the Kindle version, but you can get a printed version too. So,
and you've also got a website that I want to highlight. And we haven't even talked about the web stuff yet. So that's what I mean. We're gonna have to have another show, because we're running out of time here. But you've got actually two websites. Which is the one for the chiropractic that they need to be aware of?
It's backtoaction.com.
backtoaction.com,
Yeah.
and they can call and make an appointment with you. And if they live in well, you can live anywhere. You can fly in if you want to.
I
But
have had people do that.
I can believe it. I can believe it. Because tell me about the award real quick before we go.
About what?
The awards that you won and the recognition you received.
Snohomish County Chamber of Commerce. So it was best chiropractor. So that was a really cool award that I got. And it kind of reflects what we do at the clinic. It's all positive when you walk in. And again, our goal is to find out what's wrong. And I've had new patients tell me, I've never had an exam. I've never, you're really thorough. I specialize in people that have never been to chiropractors. Those are some of my favorite patients because they get to see firsthand what it is that we really do. And a lot of people are afraid to go to chiropractors because they don't know what's on the other side of the door. And once they're in there, they realize we're just people just like them. It's just that we've got knowledge to help them get better. And I'm more than happy to, walk them down that road. Here's what I found. And if we take x-rays, they'll see the x-rays too. I don't have to try and convince them there's something on that x-ray. They can actually see it. They can point to it. They're like, yeah, I see that. And I'll point to the x-ray and I'll touch their body on the low back where that vertebra is rotated. I said, there's the rotation and that's where it is. And that's where my pain is. It's like, okay, we've now established objective findings. There's nothing metaphysical about this. Here it is. We just need to get in there and fix it. And that's all they really need to see. It's not in their head. It's not, something that's there they think they're making up or that they told they were faking. And that's the cool part about it. So now we can do something about it.
And that's got to be really rewarding for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, I don't have an end goal for this practice. It's kind of like my dad, he practiced into his 70s. So, I'm still having fun.
It sounds to me between acting and doing, and we also have to talk about your keynote speaking and what you talk about there. So will you come back and bother me some more?
Only if you twist my arm.
I know how to do that. I was a wrestler in high school.
I would love to come back. Yeah, there's some pretty cool things that hopefully like in this podcast I can help people out with, whether it's their health or their their business.
Let's do it. Let's plan it, and you're going to also be on the Brushwood Media Network. So if you get a bunch of calls, it's not my fault. You did it. You were on the show.
Well, I as we're talking about doing web stuff, I'm able to forward my line to your cell phone. So if you're okay with taking calls for me, I'm just not.
I'll be your booking agent. Yeah, exactly. Well, you'll have to open up a satellite office down here.
That was funny. I tried doing that, or I thought of doing that, and I'm not able to separate myself with where I am currently. It's tough to get out there and move to a different place because you're leaving behind the people that want to see you there.
Well, it's been my experience that when you go see a chiropractor and they're good, you stay with them because it's just like everything else in life. Not everybody is equally talented at what they do. And if you can find a good one like Jerry, stick with them and they'll follow you anywhere.
I had I was fantasizing with my brother-in-law opening up a practice in Port Angeles. He had just left a brew pub and he was going to be a brewmaster and was going to set up a brewery. So we thought we'd go in together in business. We'd open up this place where somebody could have a beer, get relaxed and get adjusted. And we would call it the Port Angeles Crack and Brew. But it didn't happen.
So somehow, I bet you went to the bank and they went, "You want to do what?"
Yeah.
So Jerry Dreessen has been our guest, and I want to thank you for being here. Your website one more time, sir.
backtoaction.com.
And you'll see him more because he's now the house chiropractor around here. and magician and actor. There's so much, and web guy. So we're going to talk about all that next time we get together.
Great.
So thank you so much for being here, my friend.
You're welcome, Kevin. Take care.
Hold on, and I'll be right back. Hey, thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of PositiveTalkRadio.net. Please visit our website, oddly named PositiveTalkRadio.net, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we got.